Here's the question I'm asking as we start to walk into this topic of sex magic, sacred sexual energy, the dark goddess weaving in with our own sexual awakenings. And it's this question that I'm holding and sitting with as we kind of come together and start moving into this territory. And it's, how the fuck am I going to get us into sacred sexual power, awaken us to more of that, unlock more of that, unleash more of that, point to where that's at in a YouTube video? How the hell? And what kind of expectations are we setting on this? For myself, what kind of expectation am I setting on this conversation? And I guess to answer that question, I'm not. I'm holding a space of, I want to give everything I can to you in this platform, right? Which is a podcast. You might be listening to the audio of this conversation. It's a video maybe if you're on YouTube hanging out, but my aim and my intention is I have this incredible love of this territory, a deep devotion to sacred sexuality, the power held there, the creative potential held there, the life-transforming healing capacities held there, the fact that we've barely tapped into the potential that resides in our own sexual energy, mine, yours, the person next to you, the person next to you. It is a territory and an area of humanity that I just have an incredibly deep devotion to. I have since I first read the chapter. This will be funny for some of you who are a little bit older like me, and you read the book Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And there was a chapter on sex transmutation. I was like 20 when I read that. And I knew there was an enormous amount to that specific thread that he, in my opinion, barely started to point to. I mean, not barely started to point to, he pointed to it, but barely went in, barely uncovered it. Kind of spent the last 20 years, really and truly, since reading that book. I was in early 20s, 44 now. That's 2 decades of diving in to all kinds of modalities, all kinds of experiential journeys, my own deep, long-term uncovering, opening, awakening to more, healing more. What else is there? What's the potential? And not just what's the potential that resides in traditions already there? What's here that we have yet to explore? Like, really pushing into this territory in a way of being curious, being open to what can we learn, what's here, what does sexual energy want to teach us, what do, we can work with archetypal energies and we can work with sacred energies. What do these sacred energies want to teach us? What are the teachings that are coming through at this time? What are the new sacred technologies? What are the new sacred sexual technologies coming through right now? And so that's the space that I bring this to you from. But not just that for myself, facilitating these spaces for others, right? For the last 8 years, facilitating, holding these spaces, both in person and online for others. And so my aim is to bring all of that. I mean, obviously I can't bring all of that, because that's weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months and months worth of work. But what is it that I can bring through in this conversation with the aim of opening us up to more of our sex magic, more of our sacred sexual power, right? I think those are the words that I really want to point to continually. Sacred sexual power, sacred sexual power, sacred sexual power. And what is it that we can do to awaken to more of our sacred sexual power? What's required? What's kind of what can we do? Some practices. How can we start to move into this territory? What's required? Like the best tips that I can give you around what really helps, because sometimes you've got the practices, but you don't have the foundation, right? You're not implementing it in ways that really support the practices. And so I want to talk about the tips. So some practices, some tips, and then we'll see what happens after that. Maybe it's like the potentials, practices, tips, potentials, potentials. Where can this lead you to? Why do this? What can this awaken for you? And then we'll see what else weaves in. So let's first talk about, I want to go tips first, to be honest with you. I want to talk about overall what this territory asks of us, because it's maybe not what we think it is. I want to turn this on its head. I really want to give us other doorways into sexual awakening, other doorways into waking up to more of your sacred sexual power. One of those doorways of waking up to your sacred sexual power is, this is going to sound so lame and so mundane and so fucking simple, but it's your relationship to your body. It's your relationship to your body, your relationship to the lower half of your body, your relationship to the energetics in the lower half of your body, your relationship to the energetics that run through your sexual organs. What is your relationship to your sexual organs, right? I mean, this is just super simple. We're starting square one, crazy foundational. Don't worry, we're going to get crazy esoteric too. So if you're like, Sabrina, I want to talk about like the tantric archetypal energies. I want to talk about like some of like the weirdo, crazy stuff that we can see in this territory. We'll get there. We'll get there. But this is a really great starting point, right? Really great starting point. Is what kind of work have you done around the relationship to your body, specifically the sexual centers of your body, specifically the parts of your body that turn you on, specifically the parts of your body that I'm starting to get pulled over into this orgasm conversation. We'll go there in a second, and this pleasure conversation. But I don't want to limit it to that. I don't want to limit it to that. That is also limiting. So tips around this is, don't let pleasure practices and just specifically looking for pleasure limit you in your quest or on your journey to awakening to your sex magic. It is way more than pleasure. Right? That is like a tiny percentage of what's possible and what sexual energy can do, and even where it's located. Even where it's located, it's not always located in pleasure. It's not always located. That's not always the pathway there. It's a great pathway there, a powerful pathway. And it's almost like you could place Joseph Campbell's "Follow Your Bliss," right? That's like his way of pointing to your true north. Follow your bliss. It's his way of pointing to soul purpose. You can say follow your pleasure, right? It is a really great path. Follow your pleasure, but it can also be follow what you're avoiding, right? Follow what you're deeply hiding from yourself. Yeah, we hold a lot of potential in the fantasies that we hide from ourselves, the fantasies that we don't dare derive pleasure out of. That is pointing to an enormous source of power in you, an enormous source of energy. And when we cap it, we're capping our sex magic. We're capping not just our sex magic, we're capping our life force. So even your vitality, your aliveness, your joie de vivre, right? That's being capped anytime we're capping any kind of sexual expression that we're drawn to. That's intense, right? Now, I'm not saying that we have to act out all of our sexual fantasies. It's not about that, but it's about they're pointing towards something in self. They're pointing towards something in self, and they're worth exploring. They're worth exploring. We'll talk a little bit more about this probably when we talk a little more about specific practices and how to get into this. But I want to stick to a little more of this groundwork building, this framework building. Maybe calling out like some of the myth, like myth busting a little bit around awakening to our sex magic and sacred sexuality. Here's a myth buster for you. Sacred sexuality, if we limit it only to, the light side of sacred sexuality, you're missing the power. You're missing Not all of the power. Yeah, there's some power in the light side of sacred sexuality. It's stunning. There's many gifts there. There's a lot of magic there. There's a lot of power there. But that's half. That's half. Let's say there's light and dark. Dark is not bad. Dark is not bad. Light is not good, right? We're talking about this in a completely different way than good and bad. So please don't put dark and light on top of the wrong framework. But when we deny the more hidden, right? The what we would say like deeper, darker sexual fantasies, deeper, darker sexual energies within ourselves, I would venture to say, this is in my experience of myself and my witnessing of many others in this territory, we are negating more than 50% because there's more power held in the hidden. There's more power held in the darker than there is in the light, right? There's less power in the light. Less power in the light. And you don't have to believe that, right? I mean, I'm always saying this in every rewilding video. If this does not resonate with you, chuck it in the fuck it bucket, right? You're so welcome to chuck it in the fuck it bucket. And you're so welcome to dive in and explore it for yourself. Where's the juice at? I know for me, when, let's just say I'm with my partner, he goes for the light side. I love the light side. Fucking love the light side. There are things you can do in the light side that you can't do in the dark side. Love it. But when he goes for the light side, there is less fire. There's less Shakti. There's less life force. There's less desire, right? He goes for the dark side, whoosh, right? It's like this instantaneous, the amount of juice that comes and how quickly it comes. And you can just think about that as raw energy. So here's another tip in this territory. This is a really good tip. This is a great tip in this territory. If we can think about sexual energy and it's just raw, pure form of energy, it's just a raw, pure form of energy, it will help us to loosen the grip that our beliefs have on sexual energy. So here's a truth. Most of us, I would venture to say all of us, I know myself included, even after all these years, right? All these years and all these hours spent in this territory, I know that my belief systems around sexual energy block it, limit the potential. I know it. So one way, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about this in the practice section. We'll see what happens for that section of our conversation. But as an overall tip for working in this territory, any kind of practice or anything you're starting to invoke sexual energy with, play with, experiment with, letting go of it having to be sexual energy. Just watch what happens. Crazy powerful. Let go of it having to be something that leads you to orgasm. Let go of it having to be something that is only for pleasure. Do you see how limiting that is? Instantly, automatically, most of the world has this. It's all about pleasure, my pleasure, their pleasure, right? Total limitation. What if it's about healing? What if it's about opening up to hidden dreams within self? Your sexual energy can literally open you to hidden dreams, sacred callings, higher callings, soul purposes. That's what this territory is. It's way, 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 way more. So just as a practice in this tips and tricks and kind of laying the foundation of it, something to play with, whether you're with your partner, right? Doing a partner practice, you're with yourself, doing a self practice. Now, self practice doesn't have to be a pleasure practice. It doesn't have to be a touching practice, right? You might just be starting to open to raw, pure, naked sexual energy in yourself. You might just go into your kind of second chakra area, into your pelvic region, into your sexual organs, and you just start to breathe into them. I see we're starting to go into the practice section. So let's do this together. Just go right into your sexual organs. One, notice how comfortable you are there. That points to number one, right, of tips and tricks and what to start to pay attention to. What is our comfort level with our body? What is our comfort level with going to our sexual organs, right? And finding ways to get more and more comfortable, finding ways to loosen the karmic knots we have around sexual energy and our bodies. This is your body. It's a temple. It's a sacred temple. It's a sacred temple, right? My yoni, my anus, my breasts, my armpits, right? Sacred temple. Think about the parts of your body that you feel are the grossest, right? The grossest. Like, ugh. Armpits are a good one. Like right now, my armpits stink so bad. No deodorant. I've been moving around a ton. Like, gross. Fucking sacred. It's sacred. That's temple space in there. Sacred, 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 right? And then I'm just giving you an easy example, but feeling into for yourself, right? When you start to just feel into this. This is a great reflective practice. Sacred sexual energy. Where am I holding the most amount of sacred sexual energy in this moment? Where is the most amount of sacred sexual energy pent up in my body? And just let whatever come. It might be your anus. It might be your breasts. It might be your belly. It might be your cervix. It might be your penis. It might be your balls. It might be any place. Sexual energy is not limited to sexual organs. It's energy. We're talking sacred sexuality. Sacred sexuality completely what's the word I want here? Transcends body parts. It's sacred sexual energy. It completely transcends body parts. Completely transcends body parts. I've had orgasms, right? Powerful orgasms, full body orgasms from my ear. From my ear being stimulated, right? Neck, nipples, but it doesn't matter. My spine, oh my God. My spine is like one of my most orgasmic spots. Can be fully clothed, doesn't fucking matter. But someone who knows how to move energy up my spine, oh, you better believe I am gonna have an orgasm so huge that we will both be fully blissed out and pleasured. That's my spine with full clothes on, right? That's my back. So in this practice, now we're kind of weaving like different practices, different doorways into this, along with tips and tricks, right? The practice of reflective, let me just break this down because I know it can start to get really intense and all muddly in our minds, because this is, for many of us, it's shadow territory, it's dark territory, it's taboo. And if it's not taboo, one, you've been doing this for your entire life, essentially, right? Nothing's taboo. Or if you're not feeling where your taboo edge is, you haven't gone far enough, right? For me, there's always an edge. There's no matter how, for me, this is my belief system. Again, chuck it in the fuck it bucket if this doesn't resonate with you. But to me, sacred sexuality keeps evolving. Our capacities with it keep evolving. Human consciousness keeps evolving. Conscious sexuality keeps evolving. It never ends, right? It never ends. Therefore, my journey into it will never end. It will never end. Which means there's always an edge. There's always more. There's always more to become conscious of. We talk about conscious sexuality. You're becoming aware and you're becoming conscious to more and more and more and more. And maybe it's more and more in yourself. Maybe it's more and more in your partner. Maybe it's more and more in the world. Here's a fun one. Let me just see before I go into this one. Let's go back to this really quick. I want to wrap this kind of first practice up. And it's where I said like the brain can get really muddly. So let's go back to this, make it super clear, and get creative with this, right? Your sexual energy is also creativity. It's also creative energy. So flow with it, trust it, let it give its wisdom to you, the wisdom of creating, the wisdom of being creative, the wisdom of being creative from the deep inner truth within. Right? That's powerful, right? The wisdom of the deep inner truth within. Let it start to talk to you. Let it start to tell you where your sexual awakening is at. Where for me, I knew that there was a lot in anal sex for me. I knew that for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And when that started to be explored and woken up and, like the right scenario in life presented itself, oh my word, right? The amount of, or the next aspect of my own sex magic, right? My own, it was even like a reclamation of self. It was even a reclamation of parts of my body that pure sacred energy can move through, right? But that was me listening to my own intuition. And so, if there's something else I can say around tips, I will get to this like very specific practice. I know I'm giving you practices all over the place, and you might want to take notes, or you might want to come back and re-listen to things, and just trust what's happening for you, in you, with this conversation, right? This is much more than just mind food, right? There's a whole energetic thing happening here, right? There's a whole invitation. There's a weaving. There's a Shakti flowing, right? There's a sexual energy starting to stir and move and wake up, and we'll see how much of that we can wake up throughout this conversation too, right? This is like the foreplay. I'm a very feminine essence being. Sometimes it doesn't come across in videos, because also my job in a video is to bring masculine through so that we can weave both of them together, and that I can actually be here and find words and hold the space and do all of the other things that are required to show up in this way for you all. But as a very feminine essenced being, this is a fun one. There's foreplay, right? There's foreplay to get the feminine energy rolling, right? It's not just foreplay to get to orgasm. It's foreplay to get the energy moving. I always talk about, in non-sexual conversations, it's like I'm always whipping up a Shakti storm, and I usually am saying like, hold on, just keep holding on, because we're whipping up a Shakti storm, but it takes a little while. It's the foreplay. It's the feminine energy requires the building of the energy, requires the safe space, the container, right? Requires like that care, it requires time, requires movement, right? I get to be moving. It requires the energy to start moving more and more and more and more and more. All right. So that's what's kind of going on also in other levels. But let's go back. I'm still holding this piece around, let's be really specific around this first practice. That first practice are those reflective questions around where is, and don't get too crazy with this, right? Because the mind can just, we go all over the place. Where is the next best place for me to work in my body to unlock more of my sexual energy? And sit with that and listen for that deep inner guidance, or trust your body, or listen to your fantasies, right? Listen to those deep, dark, hidden fantasies, the ones that make you like a little bit nervous, because oftentimes we're a little bit nervous. We're a little bit nervous, or we're hesitant, or we're scared, or we're shameful, or we're embarrassed, right? This is all like kind of like the shadow triggers start to come up a lot when we start to wake up to more and more of sexual energy. And when our dreams, our fantasies, our bodies start to show us where that's at. Your body is showing you, your fantasies are showing you, right? Pleasure is showing you, right? All of those things, they're pointing to where your sexual energy is sitting. And just hold that container, sit in the question, meditate on the question, journal with that question, if you have a lover, talk to your lover about that question. I will sometimes self-pleasure to that question. Yeah, right? Like my orgasm will point me exactly to where the next place in me is wanting to open up to more sexual energy. It's fucking beautiful. So give that a try, right? Practice one. Let's feel into where we want to take this conversation next. Practice two, I am going to talk about touch. I'm going to talk about touch, and I'm going to talk about touch with sacredness. I'm going to talk about touch with love. Sometimes many of us, I shouldn't say, yeah, sometimes. It's interesting finding words around things sometimes. All right. Let's dive into this. For many, there's a separation between sacred and sexual energy. There's a separation between open heart and open sexual energy. This is a powerful place to work. It's a powerful place to work to merge the two. To merge, what we want to do is we want to merge love and sex. This is where the sacred's at. So if we're here, we're talking about opening up to sex magic. We're talking about opening up to sacred sexuality. We're talking about opening up to creative potency, all of your hidden potentials around sexual energy, right? We're talking about moving past the shame, moving past the stupid little patterns of sex must mean orgasm, sex must mean pleasure, right? We're talking about what is more on offer around sexuality. Well, one of the really powerful ways to open up to what is more on offer around sexuality is to combine it with the sacred, right? Combine it with the mystical. It becomes mystical fucking, mystical sexuality, right? Combine it with shamanic territory, right? Like it becomes shamanic sexual energy. I mean, shamanic sexual energy, think about that, right? Shamanic sexual energy, you're able to traverse into the underworld with your shamanic sexual energy. Think about mystical sexual energy, right? You're able to uncover the mysteries of the universe with sexual energy, right? Think about love, just open-hearted love. I mean, let's make it simple. Let's not go mystic or shaman. I mean, there's 85,000 other flavors that we can weave it into. And that's a great practice. It's kind of like advanced practice. You start to weave sexual energy into all of these other energies that serve, so that there is no place that your sexual energy doesn't flow to. You want your warrior on track, right? You flow sexual energy into your warrior. You want your businesswoman on track, you flow sexual energy into your businesswoman. Here's a wild one. You want your best way of mothering your children, flow sexual energy into that. I bet a lot of you just hit some resistance. Where is it that we don't want sexual energy to go? Where do we believe sexual energy does not belong, right? Oh, sexual energy doesn't belong in the church. This is part of the reason why it's so seemingly veiled and hidden and like religious to weave sexual energy into the sacred, because we thought it doesn't belong in church, right? These are all unconscious hidden beliefs that are blocking your capacity to really take life force energy, your joie de vivre, your creative essence, right? This is literally the energy that creates life, physical life, creates physical life. I mean, we've just tainted it. We've tainted it. We've diminished it. We've demonized it. We've made it toxic. We've manipulated it. We've twisted it. We've, like crunched it in this tiny little box and gone like, it's only for pleasure. It's only for pleasure. And it's only with this person on this day in this form for pleasure. That's 1/1 billionth of what's possible with it, right? But, here's a tip or trick. Being able to be so honest with self, like holding that compassion when we start exploring this territory and go, wow, I really have a deep belief that sexual energy doesn't belong in my mothering. Like that my life force and the energy that created my babies doesn't belong in how I raised them. That was the energy that created my babies. It's fucking love. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's glorious. Can you see how much we judge this, shut it down, demonize it in so many places, and we don't even know it? We don't even know it. So that's practice number 2, is just really diving deep within and going, where do I believe sexual energy doesn't belong? I don't believe sexual energy belongs in the boardroom. Well, partially because we think that it's manipulative. Well, if I bring my sexual energy into the boardroom, I'm really just using tits and ass to get what I want. Okay, that's another fucked up belief system that we've all bought into. If I bring my that's another immature way of wielding sexual energy. I'm not talking about wielding sexual energy in a misuse of power kind of a way, in a manipulative kind of a way. Sacred sexual energy points to opening up to allowing energies, this energy to flow through us for the highest good, for the highest good. I know for me, like, I don't get to run a 5-day retreat, which is what I just did. I don't get to run a 5-day retreat to the degree that I do, open the doors that I do, without sexual energy flowing through me for 5 days, because it's my creative potency. Now, it's not coming out as tits and ass. I know that that's like such a crude way of saying it, but it helps us to get it, right? I'm not doing it in a way where it's just like, oh, let me manipulate you into getting what I want. Let me only limit it to sexual energy is for attraction, like your attraction to me, my attraction to you, and then we, go to pleasure, right? It's no, we open up all of these lines in our body and we really start to work with sexual energy as just its raw, pure form of energy. It's a raw, pure form of creative essence. It's a raw, pure form of life force energy. And I have this healthy, beautiful, deep respect for it. I have a devotion to my sexual energy. I have a deep devotion. I have a deep respect for my sexual energy. And I have an understanding of my sexual energy and a belief of my sexual energy that it is way more. It is way more than tits and ass. Right? I love that we get to bring the profane into the profound, right? And the profound into the profane. And, please forgive me if any of this stuff is rubbing you wrong. It's my best way of trying to kind of trigger us a little bit, trying to point to where it is that the potential is held within you. And it's different for all of us. Here's another kind of tip. Trying to combine the two words into one tick. But here's another tip. Shoot, I just lost it. Cracking silly jokes. Anyways, we'll see if that one comes back. Okay, let's come back. We're still in this container of practices. And this practice of, what are our belief systems around sexual energy? How raw, how pure, how beautiful do we truly, genuinely believe? I don't want surface level belief systems, yeah. No. We don't get to lie about this. Like, this is like deep, primal, core beliefs, like in your core belief. And that's where here's a tip, is to have so much compassion, so much self-compassion for it, and to be so non-judgmental and so okay with what's arising. The more okay we can be with seeing these things in self, the more we'll see. Right? When we judge things, we push them further away, right? When we can't hold that acceptance and that compassion for what's truly, genuinely there, we'll keep pushing it away. We'll keep sweeping it under the carpet and it will stay hidden from us. And so holding this like really open, compassionate, very curious space. And this is why sometimes it really helps to be with others. It helps to go on guided journeys. It helps to be in a room with others, because that compassionate space is held for you. It's invoked in the space. It's invoked in the room. It's invoked in everyone in the room, right? So it really becomes this non-judgmental space. And a lot of times someone else is better at holding non-judgmental space for us than we are for ourselves. Let me say that one more time. A lot of times someone else holding non-judgmental space is easier for someone else than it is for ourselves. So just feel into that too. Not always the case, but for some of us who, we're just like lone wolves on this path of awakening, and I know there are a lot in the rewilding community anyways, who are lone wolves on this path. Sometimes we gotta find ways to lean into each other and ask someone to love the unlovable in us. Like, can you witness this without judging it? Because I can't for myself. I hold so much shame and embarrassment around this, right? I know I do this with my partner all the time, like where I'm incredibly squirmy about something, right? And I know I'm on it. I know, like, that's where the juice is at. That's where the magic's at. Right? That's where the hidden juice is at. That's where the magic is at. That's where the next level of my own awakening to more and more of this juice, my own awakening to more and more of sexual energy and sex magic and all the things that we're talking about here. When I'm real squirmy and I'm like, oh God, I'm so nervous to tell you about this thing. I'm so nervous to tell you about this latest fantasy. Like, oh, this makes me so squirmy. And he is so beautifully and literally like, that's it? Sabrina, that's beautiful. That's easy. We should do that. Right? I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just revealed like that horrifically vulnerable, embarrassing, shameful thing to you? And he's like, there's no shame in that. There's no embarrassment in that. That's beautiful. Let's do it right now. Right? Like, that's how this territory often is. It's not a big deal for someone else, but it's the biggest deal for you. And sometimes we just can't get over shit without someone else loving it up, witnessing it, being able to hold that non-judgmental space for us. Really and truly, I'm telling you, some of the greatest breakthroughs will not come from us being by ourselves. And again, if you don't believe in that, I respect that. I'm a fucking lone wolf myself, right? I do so much on my own. And so from one lone wolf to another, I'm just offering this as something for you to feel into, like, oh, fuck. Like, maybe it is time for me to get some guidance around this territory. Maybe it is time for me to be in a sacred space and share with others. Maybe it is time for me to be at an in-person retreat, or to work with, a close soul friend, or my partner, or my lover, or, but you feel for you, right? You feel for you. All right. So let's see. Let's feel for, I think we should weave into potentials. We'll see. Maybe some more practices will come back. Again, get creative with them, right? Get creative with them. Let me feel. Here's the third practice that I want to share, and it's kind of around potentials. This will help weave us in. Third practice I want to share is tap into that energy. However you're tapping into it now, like, one is just honor where you're at on your path with sexual energy. Maybe it's really closed down for you. That's okay. That's okay. Start with exactly where you're at. Love where you're at. It's perfect. It's perfect for your journey. It's perfect for your journey in this lifetime. Right where you're at. That's where you're at. You're at ground zero. It's perfect. No thinking about the past. No like coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Don't give any energy to that. Here's where I'm at right now. I love it. I honor it. I respect it. And I'm going to move from this place. That is power. Right? That like ground zero point, that is a power point in many practices, not just sexual practices, right? But really owning that, really honoring that, really loving that. And so wherever you're at on your journey with your sexual energy, finding a way to tap into the sexual energy, right? Whether that be by I know for me, dancing, clothes on, dancing, sometimes not even to music, sometimes to nature, right? I'm just out there and I'm with the wind and I'm with the earth, and it is so fucking seductive and so sensual, and my sexual energy just starts to pour through me, right? So this doesn't have to be what we think it has to be, right? At all. But for me, I go outside at sunset. Oh man, like sunset, gentle breeze, bare feet on the ground, and no one around, but me just going for it, right? Like, oh. So whatever it is for you, and try different things too, right? Try different things to invoke our sexual energy. We get so patterned. It's such a nervous system loop. Like, it's so nervous system pattern. We're so fucking patterned around sexuality. It just drives me crazy. We'll talk about that maybe in potentials. We'll see what comes up. But practice 3, tap into your sexual energy. Tap into it. So let's just say it's me dancing, let's say you're doing the practice that I love to do, dancing outside in nature, and you're just moving sexual energy through your whole body, like opening up to more and more and more and more of it. And you kind of let it flow through the whole of your body, through every single cell of your body. And you just allow it like as big and as much as wants to move through you at the time. And you just are moving it through. And you just kind of ask, all right, the raw, pure form of this energy. So now your brain doesn't get in the way to limit it, because then it needs to be about orgasm and fucking pleasure only. Raw, pure form of it, right? So now I'm moving energy through my body, and I tap into raw, pure form, the wisdom of it, right? The wisdom of sexual energy, and it's raw, pure form. What does the wisdom of it want to do? Actually, the wisdom of it right now in me, in this moment, there's this spot in the back of my head, and this energy just wants to move through that spot in the back of my head. It's probably like pituitary gland or some shit like that, right? Like one of those like magical magical, sacred, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter because I can just go right there and be with it. But anyways, all this sexual energy wants to move right through that territory. It wants to move through. It wants to, what does it want to do now? Right? So you see, I'm just following the energy. It's sexual energy. It started out as sexual energy. It's sacred energy. Sacred energy. I'm not limiting it, right? It's now just becoming extraordinarily healing and awakening for me. I'm about to facilitate a priestess training retreat for 2 days. So right now, my sexual energy is gone. Yes, and we're transmuting into being this awakening energy for you, Sabrina, to move you into the energetic state that you need to be in so that you can hold a priestess training retreat for 2 days starting in a couple of hours. That's exactly what's happening to me. That's exactly what's happening to me. And I know that because I've worked in this territory for years and years and years and years and years. And I know, right? Because I also know how to listen to the wisdom of my body. I know how to listen to the wisdom of the energetics. I know how to follow that line. The powerful practice. That's all you do. It's that fucking simple. But we have to train ourselves to do it. So train yourself. Practice it. Practice. Right? Practice it. So let's just go over this one more time. Invoke sexual energy from wherever you're at right now. Does not have to be dancing outside like I do, right? Or what? It can be anything. Invoke sexual energy, right? Tap into raw, pure form, the wisdom, and then you just kind of go like, okay, sexual energy is moving, wisdom energy, wisdom of the energy, raw, pure form, wisdom of the energy, raw, pure form. What does it want to do? I don't know. Now it just kind of wants to go to like the next spot that it's doing to prepare my energetics for what I'm about to walk into in a couple of hours, right? That's it. That's literally it. Sometimes my sexual energy will pour out onto a event page and I suddenly write a whole new event. It has nothing to do with sexuality, right? Maybe I write an event for this priestess retreat, right? This priestess training, but it starts out as that's the energy, and then it's like, okay, where does it want to flow to? Oh my gosh, it wants to flow into this podcast. That's exactly what happened to me this morning. I'm out walking, I'm doing this big, beautiful walk, right? All the life force, the creative energy, the sexual energy. I start to tap into that and I'm like, wow, where does this energy want to go? Film podcast today. Really? That seems strange because I have to facilitate a retreat in a couple of hours. Film podcast today. Here we are. I'm following the wisdom of it. I'm letting the sexual energy move through me to create whatever it is that it wants to create with me, through me, for me, right? That's it. And it's always in alignment with my soul. This is what's possible. It's in alignment and it literally moves through me to call in, to create, to do, to move me in a way, to pull other people in a way, to call other things in a way, to like literally move the whole world, right? To move the whole world to create what it is that is most fulfilling for me. This is most fulfilling for me. This fucking lights me up like it's nobody's business. This is how love wants to move through me. This is how love moves through me. I'm always holding this intention of in the highest good, love moves through me, and sexual energy comes to fuel it. It comes to fuel purpose. It comes to fuel passion. It comes to fuel creative endeavors. And a creative endeavor is anything. Creative endeavor is your life. You're constantly creating. You get in the car, that's creative. You're driving, that's creative. You're brushing your teeth, that's creative. You're making love, creative. Raising babies, creative. You're at work, creative. You're creating your day. You're creating your life every moment. Creating. Why not bring the juice? So I suppose that just kind of answered potentials, right? There's nowhere that sexual energy doesn't go. There's no thing it can't fuel. There's no flavor it can't take on. Sexual energy can take on the flavor of building a building. Sexual energy, like carpentry. Sexual energy can take on a flavor of mothering. Sexual energy can take on a flavor of facilitating a 5-day retreat like I just spoke about. Sexual energy can take on a flavor of loving. Like anywhere, everything, healing. How is it we limited? How is it we limited the very force that created human beings? I sit with that. Sit with that for a good long time. You came from that energy. I came from that energy. We came from that. We fucking came from that. We came from that. Oh, the mysteries that are held here, the potentials that are held here. My hope for you is that, this conversation served in some way. My hope is that you don't stop here, right? My hope is that you go back through these practices, you lean into, you watch this video 5 times if you have to. Maybe every time you watch it, more energy starts to build. Maybe this first time through was just, getting a feel for what the heck's coming. Maybe the next time you go through and you're like, all right, let this be where my energy just free flows. Let my sexual energy just free flow with Sabrina's sexual energy in this. Try it. Try it. I'm inviting you to. If it feels right for you, right? Try it. Go back through. Take notes, right? Take notes. What triggers me? What triggers me? What are the reflective questions that I'm really called to deepen into? Right? Don't stop here. Don't stop here. And listen, let that wisdom energy guide you. Guide you to the next thing, guide you to the next place within your body where, there's more energy to be released. The next, kind of like shadowy, hidden territory to walk into. The next shameful fantasy, right? That's just holding your fucking sex magic. It's just holding back your potential. It's holding it. It's holding it. Find the right spaces, find the right teachers that you resonate with, find the right programs that you resonate with. If you're jiving here, right, and you're like, wow, Sabrina, like I can hear you and I am with you and I'm feeling a resonance in some way and you want to keep going. There's 2 programs that, of all the rewilding programs, the 2 that I would most recommend around this are Sacred Sexuality, right? That's kind of an obvious one. And Reunion, that's around deep sexual energy. You actually end in full body orgasm. It's around the masculine and the feminine union. We get to do some deep journeying into shadow territory. So really we do raw, pure sexual energy. So if you're like, wow, tapping into like the pure sexual energy, I don't know how to do that. We do that. It's totally guided, a held space. You're with me the whole time, right? And again, if there's a resonance and you're feeling it, those are just 2 offerings. They're at least open now as this podcast comes out in November. They're coming down probably around Thanksgiving. This is November 2023. So if you don't see links below, we'll put a deadline date below. They're closed, but they're open right now. So if that's something that feels like, wow, I want to keep going. I want to be guided into this territory. I'd like more practices. I want to be held in this territory. I don't know what I'm doing in this territory. Go dive into both of them if that feels right for you. All right. I'd love to see you all in the comments. If you're on YouTube, hanging out with me, I'm always in the comments for the first couple of days after a video comes out. I love co-creating with you all. I love, witnessing it, being with you in that way. All of this is a co-creation. Without you all, I wouldn't be here, right? Without that 5-day retreat, those participants who were just here in Ibiza with me, going into the territory that we went into around the sacredness, around weaving sexual energy in with sacred energy, holding highest good, really becoming channels for light, but not denying the juice behind the sacred sexual energy. This wouldn't have come out. So big gratitude to those 21 participants and my support team who were here. Just gratitude to you for being here and for sticking with it and being here till the end. Big love, big love. If this video served and you want to support in some way, you can always hit the like button. You can hit subscribe if you don't want to miss future videos, and leave a comment below if you want to interact with me. I'd love it. All right. So much love to you. I will see you when I see you, where I see you, and how I see you.